Token female here, DPSing stupidity. This one is actually something I had recommended to me by one of my friends on WoW. So let's see what the big deal is here. Sexual harassment in virtual reality feels all too real. It's creepy beyond creepy? Wait. So you mean they are so desperate to ruin video games they're stooping this low now? Well, I guess we need to get into this. Striding through the snow covered fortress, shooting zombies with her bow and arrow, Jordan Bellemere felt like a god, right up until the moment someone named Big Bro 442 decided to virtually rub her chest and make her feel like just another powerless woman. Pause. I'm barely even a paragraph in, and I'm already finding things wrong with this. Isn't her feeling like a god sexist? I mean, why doesn't she feel like a goddess? Are they saying that goddesses are less powerful than gods? And if so, doesn't this completely go against their whole ideology? Sorry, that's just me nitpicking. We all know you don't have to do that with feminist stuff. We don't need to kill the ads to get this boss down. Also, this might sound kind of stupid, but could he have been lagging and not actually trying to grope you? No, you can't give him the benefit of the doubt. He's male, so he's automatically evil. It's your job to make an article in The Guardian with his username for him to be harassed by the dozens. Now, I don't play VR games. I admit that, but I have watched people like Markiplier and Jacksepticeye play those games. And how do you rub something like a crotch in those games? You usually don't get an actual hand, so you can't really have a way to cup it. Sexual harassment has been a feature of online and gaming communities from the earliest days of the internet. Until now, the abuse has been largely limited to verbal and visual messages. But as virtual reality technology becomes more immersive, the line between our real bodies and our digital bodies begins to blur. Are we doomed to build virtual worlds that are as hostile to women as the real one? And what will we do when virtual abuse feels as real as a physical assault? Now, I've been playing games like WoW and League since I was 11. I have been sexually harassed multiple times on these games, and I have also gotten rape and death threats. But you want to know what? The second I saw that stuff, I'd usually put that person on ignore and go on my day. The only time I have ever even reported something for these threats is when they've made multiple characters to get on and they keep sending me those messages. That's it. It's a video game. It's not real life. They don't know who you are and you do not know who they are. For most of the time with this stuff, all you have to do is log out for about half an hour and the person is gone. They no longer care, so you don't even have to put them on block. It's that simple. More than 2 decades ago, Gillian DeBell chronicled the very real emotional fallout from a rape that took place on a text based multi user dimension known as Lambda MOO. The rape involved one user hijacking the system to write sentences describing sexual acts involving other users' avatars. Nobody's touched, DeBell wrote in the Village Voice, and yet, to the victims, the violation was real. Post traumatic tears were streaming down her face, a real life fact that could suffice to prove that words' emotional contact was no mere play acting. If you highly identify with your avatar and are portraying yourself in an authentic manner, you're going to feel violated, said Jesse Fox, an Ohio State University professor who researches the social implications of virtual worlds. It wouldn't be any different if somebody sent you a harassing email to your work email or harassed you in a chat room. So don't read it. Put that person on block. Report them. I can actually see these girls crying and screaming in their room, yelling, "No, please stop! Not my character who has no emotions or thoughts of her own!" You weren't actually being touched. You weren't actually being violated. You weren't actually raped. This downplays the real rapes that happen all too much. But apparently, Fox needed to go on with warning that virtual reality opens the door to a new level of violation. What's different about virtual environments is an extra layer of immersion. If you are being groped in the real world versus a virtual world, the virtual stimuli do not differ. You are seeing it. It is appearing to happen to your own body. Those layers of lifelike experience are going to be traumatizing in that moment. In addition, Fox said virtual reality groping or harassment adds a second level of shock by destroying the user's sense of immersion in the virtual world. Okay, I will admit, IRP on WoW. I get very attached to my characters so that when they're sad, I'm sad. When they're happy, I'm happy. But when I was RPing at a bar and a guy walked up and slapped my character's arse, I didn't think twice about it. I didn't feel like I had been groped myself. No matter how much I can identify with my character, I am not her. I was not groped. She was. The pixels on my screen were groped, not my flesh and blood. For Bellemare, the virtual groping was comparable to being groped in real life, something that happened to her twice before. The psychological trauma was about equal, she told The Guardian. The shock I felt from the real life groping versus that first virtual groping was about the same. You wonder what kind of person thinks it's okay to do that and are disgusted that it happened to you. The ability of VR users to harm one another raises all sorts of complex ethical and legal questions. Mark, I have no clue how to say that last name. An attorney who has long chronicalized issues in video game law said that the society is not yet at the point where virtual assaults should be considered criminal. Oh my gosh, and they shouldn't be. But by this logic, that means every time I completely pwn someone as Ari in League, I'm murdering someone. Every time I tidal wave someone off the edge of a map in WoW, I'm pushing that someone off a cliff in real life. Do you see why you can't be criminally charged in a video game like that? Because that means that those zombies she was killing in the game, well, she was actually shooting someone in the head. She should be able to be charged with murder if the guy is going to be charged with sexual assault. Most sexual assault and rape statutes nationwide would require some sort of physical contact. While I admit that VR can give you sensation to include that with actual assault, it's sort of a slippery slope, he said. At the point where people do get actual sensory feedback, like a Matrix type plugin, something where it's actually being plugged into your brain, that's where we sort of turn a corner and say that things in virtual reality are much more real than they were before, he said. That line is somewhere out there in the technological ether. Experiments with hypothetic technology, such as a vest that allows a player to feel when their character gets kicked or punched, might mean that technological ether is closer than we think. The willingness for companies to build into hypothetic spaces makes it much more possible for women to be physically assaulted as well as virtually assaulted, which is creepy beyond creepy, said Fox. Okay, when video games can actually make you physically feel something, when I reach down and pick up my sword and shield and I can actually feel the weight of it on my hands, then fine. I'll give you charging people with sexual assault. But right now, the only time I can feel that sword and shield in my hands is when I imagine it in my mind. While virtual worlds may be vulnerable to the same negative human behaviors that the real world faces, they also include potential solutions that do not exist in real life, like virtual shields and superpowers. When the developers of QVR, Aaron Stanton and Jonathan Skinker, learned about Belmare's experience of harassment, they updated the game's code to an expanded personal bubble that they believe will prevent future gropings. I felt irritated and frustrated and helpless on her behalf, said Stanton. Just imagining and putting myself in that position, it lasted with me. Congratulations, you're a white knight now. How does it feel? VR, unlike other digital experiences, asks the player to give a great deal of control over to the game. We're asking them to suspend disbelief over their own person, said Stanton. I think if you're going to ask someone to do that, the developers have a great deal of responsibility to provide a safe haven. The pair came up with the idea of a power gesture, a physical movement a player can make within the game to activate their personal bubble as if it were a superpower. It's an act of re empowerment, something that they can do to reclaim power for themselves with a strong visual component that clearly transacts power back to them, Stanton explained. I can see so many bugs happening with this. I mean, this is supposed to be a fighting game, right? I can imagine that there would be a PvP aspect to it too. So I wonder how many people are going to hack in to make it to where that little shield would make it to where people can't kill them even if they are attacking. I wonder how many times it's going to bug out on its own and do it on its own, even against NPCs. These women need to grow up before they can join the rest of us. The pair plan to open source the code for the gesture and are proposing that other developers consider adapting it to their own games. They have written their proposal for the Power Gesture as a universal 911 for VR on the industry site Upload VR. The response so far appears to be positive. I absolutely love this idea. It is so inventive and powerful, said Belmer. Getting too close, zap, now the harasser has disappeared from my world. Guys, I really hope you two are happy. I mean, you're ruining the game for the rest of us by giving these whiny attention whores special treatment. And provide a safe haven? Okay, chances are this game is about war. What part of war is supposed to be safe? And so you need a power gesture to put someone on block now? You literally have to put in a safety bubble to play video games now. It's literally a safety bubble, guys. I thought we grew out of safety bubble things when we were in like the second grade. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a token female. Have a safety bubbly day, everyone.